Hello.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Expansion Project. We have a very super special guest today in Ashley Kalus, the Republican candidate for governor of Rhode Island.
Woo! How exciting.
I said that, and I can't believe I said it. That's crazy.
I can't believe it either, Alex.
So we are crazy excited. So we are going to just show you that interview in a minute. But before we do that, we just want to do some housekeeping. Steph, if you want to start.
Yes, I would like to promote our email. Our email. We really appreciate those of you who have emailed us. And yes, we have received emails, if that's what you're thinking right now. It's been super cool to read those emails, to also laugh. So thank you for those who make us laugh.
Yes.
But you can email us at expansionpodcastgtcc@gmail.com.
There you go. Nice. Nailed it.
I just need to keep having more caffeine.
Yeah.
Yes. But email us with any questions, any feedback, or any topics that you would like us to talk about. We want to hear from you. We appreciate you. So, this is all for you.
Yep.
We're just the vessels being used, but email us and, we're excited.
Yeah, for sure. And lastly, just want to do one more plug for the Apple podcast ratings. So leave us a 5-star review. It helps us out, helps us to be a little more visible. And if you leave us a 5-star review, you write something and you want us to give you a shout out, we will totally do that. So, we're looking for those reviews. Drop them. We have quite a few anonymous reviews at the moment, and so we love you. Thank you for believing in us and believing in the podcast. So keep them coming. And if you want the shout out, drop something in the comments, and we will shout it out for real.
Yeah.
So without further ado, one more thing. So Ashley will be talking in a bit just about her platform, everything that she's about, everything that she's doing. It's amazing stuff for real. And if you want to learn more, maybe you have a question that wasn't answered in this interview, check her out, ashleykalus.com. That is Ashley, KALUS.com, to see what she is fighting for, what she believes in, what she's doing, and then make a decision. Election day is coming up very soon, so we want to give you all the information you need to make your choice. So go vote. Yeah, go vote.
It's very important.
Yeah, whoever you vote for, go vote.
Vote.
Go do the thing.
Yep.
So I think that's it, right?
That's it.
All right.
Let's begin.
Yes, let's begin the interview. Enjoy.
Yes.
Bye. Just test your mic, just talk into it.
Can you hear me? I don't know how. I don't know. How do I know it's working?
Yeah, that's fine. Because I'm gonna go check on it in a second.
Okay, perfect.
Just talk into it, and then you talk into it.
I'm here. I'm talking. Check one.
I'll just say words. Hello.
I know that's. They do that. I was doing the debate, and they were like, "Do something." I was like, "What do you want me to do?" It's like, "What do you want me to do?" And make sure it's working.
My ABCs. Would you like?
I did actually 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and then the governor was supposed to do it, and then he had to do it backwards. He was like 10, 9. I was like, "You could do what I did. It's okay."
Welcome to the Expansion Project with Alex Oradola and Stephanie Chenis. Listen and process life with us.
Sorry, go ahead.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Expansion Project.
Hello, everyone.
It's me and Steph and me. And it's kind of crazy, but we have another guest, but not just any guest. We have actually a really super special guest.
We're super excited.
We're super excited for this one. So welcoming to the show, Ashley Kalus.
Hello, Ashley.
Hello. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate you having me in today.
Yeah. Thank you for coming. This was very just kind of a surprise for us, just to have somebody of your status stop by and say hi and just stop on the show. So thank you.
Yeah, we appreciate
you for being here.
Thank you for having me. Should be a surprise. No. I was like, you should deserve that. a governor, especially in a small state like Rhode Island, is someone that can be responsive and should want to talk to as many people as possible.
Yeah.
And be ready to answer questions. So I think that it should be expected from those running for political office, but those also that are elected. So I'm happy to be here, and I will come back when I'm governor as well.
Yes,
You can
there we go. I love it.
That's awesome.
Oh, well, we're excited to have you here.
Yes.
And, it's just so, when I was thinking about today, it's just so nice to have literally a fresh pair of eyes come in and want to help this state.
Yeah.
Alex and I, we live here in Rhode Island. I've lived here my whole entire life. So it's so nice for me personally to have someone just want to come in and help and love the people. And that's beautiful, a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love Rhode Island. I have always, been honest that I wasn't born and raised here. I wasn't lucky enough to be born and raised here. You, as a child, you don't get to choose where you're born or where you're raised. That's something that generally your family does. And often families don't really get to choose where they live just based on economic conditions and life things that happen. Right. So I was born in San Diego, and my mom was divorced by the time I was 5. And, she really tried to make a good life for us. The first thing that she did, she started a business. The first thing that she did when she had any sort of money or ability to help us is move us to a place with an excellent public school system. Because she knew that education is the way that you access opportunity. And I broke my mom's heart a million times because I wasn't, even though she tried, I wasn't a great student in high school. We moved to the South Shore of Massachusetts. So just across the border. I am not raised from very far away. They make it seem like I came from, from a different place. It's like, no, just right over there.
Literally right
exactly,
there.
just literally right there. And, but I didn't do well in high school. And it was during the 1990s in Massachusetts during education reform. And what it took to get education reform done in Massachusetts was a Republican governor was elected for the first time in 20 years, and he was able to get a deal done on schools. And I benefited from that because as I was a failing student in high school, it often just takes one person to take a chance on you. Maybe multiple times, but when you're ready, you're ready for that person. And I was sent to college during high school, which is not generally what you do with a kid who's not doing well in high school. You don't say, oh, why don't you go to college? But that version of school choice, which is really what it was, because not every type of school setting is for every type of student.
Yes.
Right.
And traditional high school wasn't working for me. So someone took a chance on me, sent me to UMass Boston, and I did really well. And that really saved my future. And so I always keep that in mind when I'm, talking about education and why it is so important and why we need different types of education. My path crossed with my husband in Rhode Island. He was training at Brown. He was at Hasbro, Rhode Island Hospital. I say if you had a skin cancer in the 1990s, early thousands on your face, or had a child with a cleft lip or palate, if you check your chart, my husband's name might have been on that chart. Wow. Yeah. And it was, we've always loved Rhode Island, but in 2008, 2009, I sort of feel it in the atmosphere again, which is a little bit eerie for me in terms of what a recession feels like. I remember that I was much younger and we were in about 10% unemployment in Rhode Island at that time. And my husband is the son of a Holocaust survivor. We both didn't have the ability to move back to mom's house if our business didn't work or didn't really have that safety net. Right. So during that time period, we realized we couldn't stay in Rhode Island. So we left and we went to Chicago for opportunity and to a place where we thought we had a better shot of making it. We always said that we would come back if we were able to. And, I think COVID for a lot of folks, it was a hard time, but it was sort of a great realignment, especially for individuals my age. I turned 40 this year. Wow. And I have 3 small kids. Well, they're not that small anymore. I'm looking at these chairs and folks can't see the room, but we're in this room with these adorable chairs for like toddlers, and you walk in and I'm at the point with my kids where I'm nostalgic for their chairs because we've already given those chairs in my house away to another family that could use it because I have big kids now.
Just for a bit of context, we are currently, so we've kind of teased our studio location in the past jokingly, but we are in the pre-K room of our church.
Yeah.
And all around us are just like kids' toys and these colorful kids' chairs on the table. And so, yeah, I feel that.
Yeah, which reminds me, like sometimes I'll say, oh, my baby. And people will say, how old is your baby? I'll say, 7. And so I am a 12-year-old, a 10-year-old, and a 7-year-old.
Wow.
And, the reality was if we didn't make a change and do what we said we were going to do, which was to go back home to New England. Yeah. My husband he's from the Bronx originally, so he didn't understand a New Englander cannot be away from New England. I tried for him, but the lake is not the ocean, and a New Englander is not happy if they're not back home. So we had our kids and COVID was happening. And I said, if we're not going to raise our kids where we want to raise them, it's just never going to happen for us. I got involved in the COVID response because I have a medical background. The business that we built was a multi-specialty medical practice with operating rooms, the equivalent of a small hospital. Wow. So in that time of need in the country, and I know that it feels like a long time ago because that was just a long period for everybody, I got involved in the response. And at the end of it, I said, I'm not at the end of it. What would have been 2 years of me working on large scale COVID operations and contracts, I said, I just want to have our family together and I want to go back home. Mm-hmm. And if we don't do it now, we're never going to do it. So took one last contract in Rhode Island when I was back home. And so my family was here and I said, I'm going to help with vaccine because Rhode Island was struggling. Yep. Ironically, Dan McKee took office. One of the first things he did is hire me. I'm running against Dan McKee. That's the only good decision he's ever made is hiring me to help him with vaccine. And I had a great relationship with the National Guard. They are excellent. Yeah. They were just excellent to work with on vaccine and started that and then got into testing, and when I was back home with my family and given up a lot to come back home because there was no easy way to transfer our business. We had to really shut it down because there wasn't, that was the life choice is we want to raise our children where we want to raise them, how we want to raise them. And like everything in life, there's often sacrifices when you do that.
So true.
So I'm on my last contract to help home state and, do what I was going to do because the healthcare providers were tired at that point. I was tired. And what I saw was a government that didn't serve the people. Mm. And I also saw that the problems that existed in Rhode Island when I'd left were still here. And those problems were decisions because we have big problems as a state, but we are a small state and there's nothing structural about our problems that make it that they need to be that way. It is a matter of leadership. And so, there was another decision point in life, right? Like I've now with my kids, we're going to have the life that we said we were always going to have back in Rhode Island. And I could be upset by the fact that this is not a broad-based economy that works for everyone in Rhode Island. Be upset that we have an education system that is failing kids, trapping children in failing schools. So I could be upset and do nothing. Right. Or I could get involved. And I think the end of the story because I'm running for governor. Yes. But that is sort of how I, came to Rhode Island, had to leave Rhode Island. And we're the 4th highest for college graduates that leave. My story of having to leave Rhode Island is not a unique story, unfortunately. Right. I'd like to stop that story, make it so that my kids in 10 years aren't going to look at me and say, Mom, I love you, but there's so much more for me in New York or Boston. Right. I got to go. Right. And as a parent, you don't want your children, when you give everything to them, the last thing you want them to do is make a trade of opportunity or what their life could be or what their dreams are to stay with you. Like it's almost part of your job as a parent to say, no, go, I'll be fine. Yeah. But I don't want that. And in Rhode Island, it's unnecessary trade because we have everything in this state. Yeah. And that was another thing that gets me so frustrated is if we were in a state that didn't have everything, I would understand as a parent being like, go to the big city, right? Go. Right. But that's unnecessary. That is because we have failed to build the economy that we could have here and to build the education system that we could have here. Right. And so if we make some changes specifically in leadership, and it all starts at the top of the governor's office, then we can change the trajectory of the state so that my kids won't come to me with that, that same conversation that a lot of parents and grandparents are hearing now.
Right. Wow.
So
I love that.
Yeah.
Long story, but that's the story of my life.
That's amazing. I especially resonate with just what you're talking about, school. Your mission for the school system. I actually also struggled in high school very badly and barely made it out, barely graduated, and I distinctly remember a moment in my junior year where I do music just a lot. Like that's like my life now. It's in my DNA. And but at the time, I just didn't feel confident at all to do it. I'm like, well, that's for other people. I remember a specific moment in junior year when I took a class called Music Tech. And it was a very just not conventional class at all. And I took it not really expecting much, but I realized, when I went into a class that really was targeted for me, that I locked in a way that I didn't know I could. I thought that school was just so far out of my mental headspace that I couldn't lock into a class or learn. But I remember never focusing as much as I had in that class because it just kind of gripped me. And I understand how important it is to not just accept school for what it is. If it can be better targeted to students, you really can have something like that click in any student's brain, even me, and I was struggling so hard to realize, it's just kind of the way that it's packaged and presented to me. Yeah. And that was like a real eye-opening moment. So to hear that from you, to hear that your mission is to kind of just not accept things the way that they are. That touches me in my core, and I'm a youth pastor too. So it's like, I want that for my students too. Right. I want them to be passionate about learning. And it's not outside of our grasp. It's possible,
we just need more options for kids, because you never know what is going. Even as a teenager, you might not know what's going to engage you, what's going to make you passionate. But if we have more opportunities available where you can try something and then get into a class and say, this is for me. Yeah. Then it makes all the other things easier too, because you're like, well, I'll do the other parts of class if I get to do this every day. Right. It makes everything more tolerable. Also, I would say there would have been no way for me to tell my 15-year-old version of myself, it was so much easier. It's so much easier to follow the rules than to break them. Right? If I could you just have to reach a point or have a certain person really connect with you. Right. And it's multiple opportunities over certain years that make that difference. And we cannot give up on kids. We need to make sure that we provide that. And that is really why education is how you access opportunity. And there are different models of education. And a traditional model doesn't work for every child. Mm-hmm. But it doesn't mean you give up on the child. Yeah. Right. You just find something that works better for them.
That's so true. So I'm excited for that.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that.
I love your story. I hope that's inspired to some of the kids you work with that are struggling. I mean, it's hard being in high school and finding a path where, because when you're in the middle of it, you think, I don't know what's going to happen to me.
Exactly that, yeah.
And the stories of people who are role models like yourself that come out of it and you say, well, high school wasn't great for me either. Yeah. I think that's helpful.
Yeah. Oh, that's inspiring to hear. Thank you. Yeah, no, it was, I kind of wish that I had the perspective that I obviously, like all of us as adults, wish for that we have the perspective that we have now, looking back at school, our school years. And
we'd probably be great at high school now.
Yeah, we kill it.
Only we can go back.
The things that I thought mattered don't matter. Oh my God. I'd be happy being me. Yeah, it's just that, that's the thing. But, it's hard to tell a kid, because it really is when you're in it, it's hard.
Your world.
So hard.
Yes.
It's so hard.
Sometimes I wish I could go back in time and just shake myself by the shoulder and be like, stop
Believe me too. I'm sure my mom still feels the same way. Like, there you go.
Yeah.
So. I love that. All right, maybe we can jump down to, what are your long-term goals for the state of Rhode Island, and what would you like to accomplish in your term?
So I'd like to accomplish my long-term goals, and I'll tell you what those are.
There you go.
So I really want to make sure that we reform education.
Right.
It is fundamental. It is a civil rights issue. It is also an economic issue for the state. And the path for reforming education in Rhode Island is really clear. We see study after study that says the same thing. So RIPEC came out with a study that said, the education system is in crisis, and here are the steps that matched my education policy steps. They almost mirrored each other, and that's because my education policy that I have on my website is so forward thinking. It's because these are the steps that we've known for a long time need to happen.
Right.
We need more choice. We need to reform the funding formula because it's not fair or equitable. We need to have high standards and accountability built into the system. And so I really want to make sure that we do this long-term project of education reform for public schools in Rhode Island.
Yep.
Massachusetts did it. It takes political will. It also takes a leader that will not give up in the middle and will stay the path.
Right.
And that is having faith in the process, which is something that's necessary.
Yeah.
And we haven't had that. We often start to deviate from a plan, and the pandemic sort of got in the way. You know what I mean? Sure. That's some plans you just can't follow because stuff gets in there.
Right.
But we really do need to follow it through. But I won't trade the future of an individual child for that long-term project that adults need to do. Education reform is going to take 2 terms for me, really doing the hard work, and there's going to be times in which people think it's not working because it will take years, and so. It is a long-term project, but telling a 5-year-old that is trapped in a failing school, I'm sorry, you're going to have to wait until middle school until the adults figure it out is an unacceptable outcome.
Yeah.
So what I've said is that if your child is trapped in a failing or unsuitable school, you will have a public school of your choice. Because school choice is important to provide access to. And in Rhode Island right now, cities and towns allow it. Some do and some don't, which means that the quality of your education is determined by your zip code.
Right.
And that's an unacceptable outcome. It is an inequitable outcome. And you're picking winners or losers. 5-year-olds, right? 5-year-olds who have no control over their destiny. At 5,
right.
My parents were getting divorced. It was a mess. I didn't know. I had no control of anything, of myself, even. I'm a 5-year-old, right? Yeah. You can't tell a 5-year-old that it's too bad you're in the wrong zip code. And so public school choice allows for that. And the reality is that we can't have school choice for some and not others. My children are in private schools because it's the best choice right now for my children. I am exercising school choice by putting my child in a private school. My mother exercised school choice by moving us to a place with a better public school system. So moving is another way to exercise school choice. But if you don't have enough money or you can't move, then you are denied school choice. And that is not an acceptable outcome in America. So that's why I believe that in the short term, we need more models of school choice. And at the state level, we need to ensure that that is available. Yeah. And there's a lot of fear around it. But when we talk about that individual child, it's very clear what the right thing to do is. Yeah. Right? The adults and the worries of the adults should not impact the outcome for an individual child. And we can figure it out. Other states, by the way, have figured it out for many, many years. Rhode Island is behind. We need to do that. The other thing we need to do is build a broad-based economy that works for everyone. And as we are in a recession, that's everything. I can feel the recession in the air. It's a little bit like, oh my goodness, we're doing this again. I'm back in Rhode Island and now we're in a recession again. It's terrible. Right. But in a recession, leadership matters. Also, somebody with a coherent economic policy plan. I'm an economist by training, so I'm sorry if I get too wonky on this whole thing. But I know, I'm sorry, but you're not going to get it for Dan McKee. And for me, that's terrifying, is that you want somebody, especially in a time of economic crisis, you want a steady leader that is able to understand and articulate a clear policy plan to guide us through a tough time. Right. So in the immediate term, because we have to have short-term, medium-term, long-term, in terms of what we need to do to build a broad-based economy. Right now, we are in crisis because it is unaffordable. It was not affordable to be in Rhode Island before, but now with inflation, a housing crisis, it is really, really difficult for families. So for immediate relief, we do a few things. We provide immediate relief means money back to families. And so what I've suggested is we lower the income tax rates for those who make under $150,000 a year, and we have no state income tax for those making under $50,000 a year. The reason for that is that it targets those who are most impacted by inflation without having programs that are, government programs are very bad at picking winners or losers, right? Even if we saw, I liked the child care tax credit that just came out, $250. I didn't like the timing right before the election because I know families were struggling during the summer and not sending kids to camps, also for back to school supplies. But the thing with that is that was good if you had kids, but if you're a senior on a fixed income, the income levels may be the same and the struggles in terms of affordability are similar, but you didn't get relief. Yes. So providing tax relief, what you do is you say, we trust that people know how to spend their money best. Right. The other thing I've suggested in the short term is to suspend the tax on electricity and roll back those rate hikes. And the reason that I would suggest doing that is we had a 47% increase on electricity rates. And there are emergency powers, and I don't believe much in government using emergency powers unless it's targeted. Yeah. But this rate hike came after a private company purchased our electric company and promised not to raise rates. And then the first thing they did was raise it 47%. Oh. We need a leader that says, no, you're not going to do this. Yeah. And the reason the rates went up were because of a supply crisis. And we have a law that says the governor can get involved if there is a supply issue that causes rates to go up. So that would help families, small businesses, and our most vulnerable populations not have the impact at a time when food is soaring in prices. All these other things are going on. And now you have an electricity rate hike. Right. We can stop that. The governor can stop that immediately. And then, electricity prices we're thinking they're going down next winter. So we can smooth that out. But you can roll back those hikes immediately. In the medium term, we need to take public money, which we have from the federal government after COVID, and use it for public projects because we need to protect Rhode Island in a time where the economy may go, we're going into recession. There's going to be less economic activity. So public projects are a great way to create economic activity. Mm-hmm. My issue right now, and I draw the contrast between the governors, I do not believe in using public money for private projects, which is what we see in the soccer stadium deal, which is what we see when we're building the Superman, Superman building has luxury apartments. So we're taking public funds, over $100 million, putting it towards private projects. I want workers in Rhode Island to be building. I agree with that. But they should be building with their hands, using their hands to build things for the future of their children, not for private businesses. Right. And then in the long term, we need to reduce taxes, reduce regulation, and make Rhode Island a friendly place for business. While we have $250 million to build housing. I intend to build 10,000 units a year. Right. And so we have to have targets and we have to have a plan. What you see with me is, and I'm sorry if everybody's asleep now after going through our economic plan. I know it's interesting to me, but that's what I studied in graduate school. But we have a path forward that can protect us during this difficult time. But if you don't choose a governor that's able to articulate a plan and also stick to it and know that you have to do certain things in the short term, certain things in the medium term, and certain things in the long term, and do all those things together to make sure that we have a stronger economy when we come out of this recession, then Rhode Island is going to continue to be first in and last out of a recession, and we're not going to have change. So my goal is to really have Rhode Island achieve its potential. There is nothing holding us back except leadership. And so Rhode Island gets to decide, sorry to wrap this up, but Rhode Island gets to decide this year on who's going to lead Rhode Island. And I would suggest that you vote for me as governor because I have the experience, I have the background, and I have the vision to ensure that we reform education and make sure that Rhode Island is an affordable place to live, work, and raise a family. But governors matter. We know that governors matter now.
It's so true.
Yeah.
And, while you were talking, the word that just came to my mind was like safe. You're making this a safe place. Yeah. For us, for everyone in Rhode Island. And that's what we need because we haven't had it for so long. And it's almost like you're helping bring us back to life again.
I want to bring us together. And what you'll notice is that I'm not a particularly divisive person.
Yeah.
And politics is sort of a divisive place, which is unfortunate because we don't have political leaders right now that we can point to with a shared meaning, which is hard for the country.
Right.
And in a time where it's going to be difficult, as you know, even with when you have church, it's so you have somebody that brings people together.
Right.
Politically, it's a different setting, but we do need political figures and leaders that are able to unify people because that allows us to get things done. And so I really do not want to be divisive. Yeah. This process is divisive, but I'll say after we get through the election and I win, the next thing that I will do is I will work collaboratively with anyone who wants to work with me to get these things done.
Yeah.
And that's what we need in order to make change. That's what true leadership is. It is not sound bites on network TV. Right. It is someone who's willing to do the hard work and work with others in order to do that. And I believe that people are fundamentally good, which if you believe that, it really makes it so that you can meet with anyone and you're working towards a goal.
It's so true.
So
I love it.
Let's do this, right?
Let's do it.
We need to do it together. It is a community effort to get this done.
Yes.
But it is doable in Rhode Island. And anybody who says it's not, I get it. It's been a long time since we've had leadership that is transformative in this state.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean it's not possible. I would say that we just need an outsider like myself to get it done.
Right.
So.
And we thank you and we appreciate what you're doing. And we have a legitimate fighter on our side.
Yes. I was hoping we would get to this.
I'm sorry. I did win the gold. I am a fighter. If you've seen the commercials, I won the Golden Gloves 2001 in Lowell.
Wow.
New England Golden Gloves. And, boxing in terms of things that help you in life, that boxing was very stabilizing for me in a time as a teenager where I was struggling. It was the discipline that I needed, also the toughness that I needed. And it's translated to politics where that mental sort of toughness and the ability to be the underdog, which I've been, but we're closing the gap and still keep on fighting. It makes a difference. And I know that even as the underdogs often win because they're underestimated.
Always.
So always. I know. Everybody prefers when an underdog wins. I intend to do that. So
I'm excited. One thing that our pastor always says is, we fight for the underdogs.
Yeah.
And we see them rise to the occasion and they come out a champion. So I'm excited for this champion. But we just really thank and appreciate you so much for just taking the time even to come out to talk to us and just share your goals and your vision. And we're excited for what is to come for Rhode Island.
I'm excited about the future of Rhode Island.
Yeah.
Let's do it together.
Thank you. Us too. So everyone listening, just a reminder, November 9th. Right?
8th.
Just kidding.
It's okay. But believe it or not, early voting starts.
Oh, all right. That's right.
It's okay. But early voting. This is why early voting starts today.
Right.
So you can vote up to the 8th, but you can start voting. But on that night, I look forward to stopping campaigning and starting to work towards solving the problems of the state so that we can make sure that Rhode Island fulfills its potential. So thank you.
Thank you, Ashley. We appreciate you.
All right. I think that about wraps it up.
That's it.
So
thank you.
Yeah. Thank you
for
coming on the pod.